and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Eric, and today we have Kyle with us, and he's not here because this is filmed after the fact. So we got on the Skype call and we dug our heels right in, talking Toyotas with James Budski Schmidt. Possibly, might be wrong the name. That's what his Facebook says. Built by Budski on the Instagrams. Check him out. Oh, man. He's got some cool stuff. He does some cool stuff. I'm telling you. He's got an old vintage Toyota. He's got an LS swap in it. Man, it is badass. That's what he does. He does have a full-time job, but he does a lot of Toyota stuff on the side. And he's building some really cool shit. I'm telling you. So if you got a vintage Toyota, or any Toyota in general, he's into it. He could probably point you in the right direction, help you out. Possibly you could be a customer of his, and I probably would go with that route because his stuff is awesome. So the audio is great. I'm into it. I like it. Sounds good. The video, sucks. I effed up. Skype effed up. We all effed up. Man, I cut Kyle completely out. I'm sitting in the corner, fidgeting with something, and this is all blurred out in the background. Video's junk. It is junk. James is kind of in frame most of the time, but not all the time. Yeah, so if you're listening to this on the podcast, then we're good. We're all good, there's some rambling points, obviously. But, we talk about what you're going to see here in a minute. We talk about vintage Toyotas. We talk about Shawnee National Forest. We talk about a lot. So, I am going to try my best to, edit the video because it deserves to be seen on all platforms because this was a really cool interview, really cool guy. So, if you're listening to this, hey, it's all good. It's going to be an hour and like 50 minutes almost. But it's worth the listen, I'm telling you. If you're watching this on the video, I'm sorry. You might just want to turn the volume up and just listen to it. But it's worth being out there, so it's gonna be there. So, without any further ado, here it is.
It's glad to finally meet you. We've been talking back and forth for the past couple of, week or so.
Yeah, thereabout. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I talked to you a little bit on Facebook, on the group, and a little bit on Instagram, but mostly you've been messaging with Eric.
Okay.
He kind of is the social media aspect of our group.
All right.
I do my best.
He's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it's just being able to split up stuff between two people helps out a lot, too.
Yeah.
Well, we actually got three.
Yeah. One of our members this past weekend, you didn't even know it.
Yeah, Brandon.
Brandon, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a crazy weekend, so I feel there was somebody in that group.
Yeah, that was a big group.
He had the just gravel roaded it.
Yeah.
He finally got to flex with it, and he was pretty impressed. So.
Yeah, it's a good place to do that. Might have to be heading back there. I didn't take my truck on the trails because I was riding shotgun.
Oh, okay.
We're shaking down Buddy's truck.
Yeah.
Working out some kinks on it. We went fuel injection, and there are a couple bugs that weren't quite there.
Yeah, I really want to touch bases on that fuel injection setup. I got a first gen 4Runner, an 88, 22R. It's I'm sure you know how they are, gutless, run like crap. I'm thinking about doing a mild build on it, maybe a turbo, and throwing a EFI system on it. And I've never worked with that, but I've done all kinds of other stuff, being a mechanic. But what's your input on it? Like, how easy is that to set up? And is it worth the extra money to spend?
Oh, that's big opinion. So me and my friend, he's very old school Land Cruiser guy. He's been at it for 30, 35 years. Nice. And he kind of brought me into it, and I've been helping him build these trucks, and I'm kind of the new school guy. And so if you ask him, he's going to be Weber all the way, and I was surprised he even went sniper on his 55. But for me, that's the way to do it. That's the future. That's where things are going. As technology progresses, a good Weber will perform, but a good sniper will outperform it any day.
Right. I'm familiar with carburetors and fuel injection. I'm actually a mechanic. I worked as an engine machinist for about 10 years. So I got, good background in automotive history. But there's things a carburetor can't do that a EFI setup can do, like drive from Texas to Colorado without having to get out and adjust your timing and your carburetor settings. We can actually go up more vertical inclines with fuel injection than carburetor because you started floats.
Yeah, that's what we learned real quick. Like, we had drivability issues on the highway, but when we got out to the trails, he said it just performs so much better because you're not sloshing that bowl around, you're not starving it, and so in that aspect it did really well. It's just trying to get some of the drivability issues sorted out, and if you don't understand the language, it's frustrating real quick. You don't understand why it's not running right, and the wizard does so much, but if your motor's not set up properly, which is kind of what we ran into, we had some valve adjustment that wasn't quite right.
Oh, that plays a lot into it.
Yeah, and then prior we had exhaust leak, and that changes everything, because that's all that ECU sees is all your exhaust stuff and compensates for it.
Right, yeah.
Got it dialed in. I've been working on it yesterday and got it dialed in. It feels pretty good. I still need to run some bass tune. And then usually once you do that, what I would do is I'll pull the fuel map off and try to clean it up better. And that's kind of an aspect that we're working on more.
Nice.
People want us to do these old Land Cruisers for them, but they want the modern drivability.
Oh, yeah.
This is the way we go, and this is the way we do them now.
Yeah.
It's rare for us to put a carburetor on nowadays, unless it's a restoration or the customers just prefers that. And in some cases, it's the right tool for that job. It just, for me, it's personal preference. I like to be able to look at fuel maps and understand what it's doing, and like that makes a lot more sense to me than sitting there with a vacuum gauge and screwdrivers and I don't get that. Where
I hear you.
My buddy's the exact opposite. He sees what I'm doing. He's like, I don't get that.
I mean,
give me my Weber and put it back on, and we fine.
I got both sides.
Yeah, I got the best of both worlds. I can do the old carburetor setup, and I can also do the EFI computer setup. But I tell you what, having the proper computer to do the job and the actual know-how to use that really defines everything.
Yeah, and having a good understanding of that. And like I said, it all comes down to preference. I actually had a first gen 4Runner called Bobcat. It was bobbed 13 inches. And,
oh, wow.
I actually bought two trucks from dirt cheap. I was going to make one together, and wanted to get rid of the injection setup on it and go to a carburetor manifold so I could run Sniper, because I really wanted to see what it could do, because it had promises to it. The 22RE is always going to be gutless regardless.
Right, but at least it'd be at its fullest potential then. Yeah,
and depending on what your needs are, if you want to be able to drive short distance to the trails, say if you haul in town or haul to a base camp and you got to do 10 miles to the trailhead, it'll perform perfect for that. And then, the 22RE will do what it does best on the trails. You can't beat the liability of it. And I just ended up having to sell the project to fund the 62 for its next phase of stuff. Too many eggs in the basket.
So
I don't know how far back you want to go on this stuff. So I've always been a gearhead.
Okay.
15 was my first project, hot rod, and being young and not knowing better, went way beyond my limits and way beyond my financial abilities as a teenager.
Yeah.
But that's how I grew. You learn from those mistakes and grow from that. And so, like, the next project's like, okay, bit off more I could chew on this one, so I'm gonna try it again. And there's been a lot of failures in that aspect, but every time I gained more and more, and grew more of a passion for it, to the point that I finally went to Rankin in St. Louis.
Okay.
For automotive program, and became a mechanic, and got a really good understanding of grasp of things. And that's when it really got exciting, because it's like I understand the stuff, and now I know how to make it better, and understand like the value of putting work in certain aspects and putting money in certain stuff, instead of being like, oh, this is cool, I'm gonna do this. I know that if I spend money this way, I gain more of what I'm trying to reach.
Yeah. Right. You're paying into yourself.
Yeah.
You're investing into yourself.
Did the mechanic stuff for a while, and worked for the Toyota dealer out here in Southern Illinois.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Didn't pan out well. Worked at another dealership, didn't pan out well, and kind of learned that maybe this is not where I should be.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then just kind of started doing side hustle this stuff, and like I said, got involved with a friend of mine who's been doing this for years, and he kind of took me under his wing and educated me on FJ40s. So I do that kind of as an off job, and then I have a full-time job with a family business as my other job, and then it gives me the luxury of being able to. I got 2 kids and a family, so now I can spend that time with my family if I want to.
Absolutely.
They'll hit that age one time where they don't want to be with their old man, and that's when I can go get back into career or get back into doing, or maybe grow something out of what I'm doing right now.
Oh, I hear you. I got 2 kids myself.
Yeah,
I actually got 31 on the way.
Yep.
How old are your kids?
They are 7 and 5.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
They're right at that age where they're getting really interested in it.
Yeah.
They come hang out in the garage. They're big on the outdoors. They like to go camping.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of get into it. I've always been kind of outdoor person, but I'm more of a builder.
Okay.
I like to build things and see how they perform. I'm not so much. I love the adventure and the travel aspect, but that's not my goal. My goal is to build something and then see if it works and then improve on that.
Oh yeah, I hear you there. I was actually more like that back in my hot rod days. But now I'm all for the adventure, but I'm also working on the build and see how it does part.
Yeah. This hobby, or I guess you call it hobby, or this lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Yeah. It lets me bring the family into the fold. Like, this has always been a personal passion. And once I kind of had kids, I realized, like, my boy's not going to want to stand out in the hot sun in some blacktop, for hours to look at cars with the hoods popped,
It's not
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, and they enjoy that kind of stuff. I have a motorsport background, and just like I got into like the whole slant car stuff for a while.
Okay.
Nice.
And it goes back to like your value, your what you want. I get more value from doing this off-roading thing, and I gain more experience from my involved family. I meet more people, and so I've gone full dive into that and basically sold off all my other projects that I had. And I try to keep it to one project.
So speaking of one project, let's talk about what's behind you.
Yeah, that's the 62. That's my daily driver.
Okay, that's your daily driver, really?
Yeah,
okay.
I drive it every day. I've gotten some pretty wild places with it. So I bought this bone stock about 3 years ago.
Can we get a walk around of it while you give us a speech on it?
Yeah. Let's see if I can do this without shaking the cam too much here.
No worries.
So basically, I bought a bone stock as an 88 down in Kentucky. It was originally from New Mexico.
Okay.
And
so rust-free, obviously, then, yeah.
Yeah. And being Midwest, you kind of learn that you don't deal with rust.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I spent some time hunting for this one, and when it popped up for sale, I jumped on it. There's not much done exterior-wise.
Okay.
I'm just a typical like bars, winches, rooftop tent, rack.
Yeah.
The biggest modification is I ended up putting an LS in it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. It's got the LS in it. Good.
Yeah. When I picked up this truck, there's a hill that actually tests trucks on. It's a 2-mile steep grade highway.
Right.
The goal is to have these old trucks do 75 and hold that speed the whole way up. Okay. I hit this hill coming back from Kentucky, and right from the bat knew that I was going to end up V8 swapping this because it was just gutless. It's old EFI technology.
You knew immediately, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. Let me sit down the phone real quick.
Yeah, no.
Did you have a direction you want to go with this, or are we doing all right? Or did you have a direction?
No, we're good.
Okay. So we got to just jump right in. You're kind of blurry. It's going to need a second to
blurred background.
Let's see. We can't quite see it.
No, we just see you real well.
Go figure. I haven't used Skype in such a long time, so it takes a moment to.
Hey, we're good. We got all night, man. We're not a professional podcast yet. We're working on it.
Well,
Yeah.
I say I
So
can tell the quality's gone way up in just the past few. There you go.
yeah, there you
There you
go. All right, look at that.
So I
That's-
usually don't keep it dirty. I'm the type that always cleans his trucks after trails, and I just had to.
Nice.
Oh, I hear you.
So this is all from the past week in the filth, but it's a junkyard LM7 and 4L60,
Nice.
and basically with that it doubled the horsepower, doubled the torque.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's
So
not crazy horsepower, but it does better.
It's
than
enough.
what it did.
oh yeah, it's
Uh,
enough.
and it just the drivability goes way up on it. And so I've done. Trying to think.
You're,
So this year I got to do Venture Overland with the Motor Trend.
Oh really?
Yeah, I got invited after that, so I put 4,000 miles. We drove this thing all the way out to Utah and back,
No kidding.
about 8 days, and we did the I-70 pass and everything, and it performed exactly how I wanted.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of stuff in the comfort department. The seats are tired and worn out, so I think new seats are going to be next on it.
There you go.
I hear you.
But it goes back to that thing that I got to experience the truck, and I got to experience this cool event and see out west. But the whole time I'm driving, I'm like, man, if I had an 8-speed in here instead of like the 4-speed or even a 6-speed, if I had a couple more gears, if I had just a little bit more of this and that. And so now that I'm back, I know what my next step's going to be on it.
So let's hear that.
Yeah,
So I go back to say that I try to keep it to one project. So I have a 60 also out in the driveway.
Okay.
That's donating its drivetrain to a 45 that I'm building. So, so the whole fleet is basically, I got the 60, which is my driver. I got the 60, which is a parts donor, but it's crunchy, but it's salvageable, so I may build something out of it. I have the 45 short bed, which is something I'm building for my father-in-law, who's also my neighbor.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of building it for me. He sees the trucks that I bring home, and he's like, "Oh, I really like this." I'm like, "Well, let me build you one." And so I'm building it kind of how I want to, but it gives me opportunity to address issues that I, couldn't do.
No, I get it. Yeah.
And then I have the 5th Gen 4Runner, which is the family hauler that my wife drives. It's the good, reliable one that we've, you always got to have that one around.
Oh, I hear you.
Completely agree with that.
So I got a couple of questions on the drivetrain, on what you went with the LS swap and the 4L60E. What transfer case and what's your differentials, transfer case and your drive shafts? Like, are they factory? Like, what did you do to get those to work?
So the biggest goal about this is if I have a failure or something break, I didn't want to have something break that was custom that I can't fix. So that being said, it's running the stock split case, but I've placed the motor and drivetrain exactly how it was factory, so the drive shafts are the same, so the diffs are the same. Like, none of that's changed on that.
Oh, perfect.
Actually, did have out in Utah have the harmonic balancer come apart on me.
Oh,
And
wow.
If that would have been, the stock drivetrain, that would have been my trip. That's over. But
Right.
I got pulled into town. They had the part next day. 5 minutes parking lot, slapped the new one on, and we're back on the trail. And so that's always been a kind of key point on me, is to keep everything in stock as possible. So worst case scenario, you blow a motor, you break a transmission. Any Billy Bob in his backyard probably has some old Silverado that I can get
Right.
and just be able to get back on there. I never want to
Wow.
be straight based on what I can't get, parts
Yeah.
for.
Well,
See
I like
that?
you kept that a conscious, a thing while you were building it.
Mhm.
That's a very smart. That's a very smart build.
Yeah.
So I got a 4th Gen 4Runner, and my partner actually ran the coolant out of it, so overheated the engine. I know it's smoked. I've seen enough engines in my life to know what this is going to look like because it ran out of coolant.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to salvage it, and I mean, $2,500-$3,500 for a used engine doesn't sound feasible for me. But I do have an Oldsmobile 350 engine sitting in my garage right now, as well as a 4-speed overdrive transmission. Now I'm thinking about putting in there, but how do I keep the dash lights off and it street legal?
It's a little bit tricky. So the 62, and what I really like on the 62, it has power windows, power locks, power mirrors. It's a really nice interior, real complete. But all your gauges and electronics are still very mechanical. So integrating the stuff is not complicated. The the oil pressure gauge. You just put a Toyota oil sending unit somewhere on the LS that has pressure, and then you read your oil pressure. Same with the temp gauge. You put your temp gauge and your temp sensor. The head's tapped and rethreaded for the Toyota thread pitch on the coolant sensor, and it pops right in. So none of that's been modified, and the engine harness for the LS stuff is completely separate system.
Standalone.
Chassis. And that simplifies your wiring, simplifies your, if you ever have an issue diagnosing stuff. I was really specific on how certain things had to be done. I didn't want to run like a Sniper Terminator because it kind of complicates things. I'm not tuning, I'm not reaching for powers. This is a stock motor, stock transmission. I should run a stock ECU, so let me just have a wiring harness that's a standalone harness that allows me to do that. Keeping, the Speedo still mechanical, so the Speedo works that way. When you get into, the newer stuff, so I've done a FJ80 with I'm trying to remember the motor here. It's a small block Chevy, but it's fully built, full roller motor, about 550 horsepower.
Very conservative.
Yeah. It's actually, it had engine problems, so the motor's out of it, and it's something that I'm working on again. But trying to merge that electronics was a huge thing to overcome, and it's still not quite dialed in. And then it has the e-lockers swapped into it in a non-locked truck, so we had to figure out how to make relays to talk to each other to signal when to run motors and shut them off. And you can do that stuff very crudely with mechanical wiring, or then you step into the world of modules that you can program to do those things. And that's kind of the next step that I'm trying to get into, to start doing modules, not having relays and fuses, but computers start controlling everything.
Well, James, it sounds like I'm gonna have to get with you on a weekend or something, talk about this stuff and take some notes, because you're really getting me interested in putting that small block olds into my 4th Gen 4Runner, and I'm pretty serious about it.
Yeah, and there's tons of ways of doing it. So if you do the Oldsmobile, you put a Holley Sniper on there, and you can run either the small screen, or you can go get the big screen and you just plop that in your dash, and then maybe you have your fuel gauge that's hooked up, because that's the only thing that's going to be chassis related.
Right.
And that's the stuff that I really geek on now, is just trying to make it better. And the trucks, the FJ40s now that are being built are very bespoke and it's all about the finishings and the refinement and making stuff cleaner, but still have, everybody's goal is to have a vintage rig that doesn't drive like a vintage rig, but acts like a vintage rig, but has a modern rig. But they want to be able to hop in, turn the key, pull on the AC. They don't want to sit there. We had to kind of finesse the choke and give a little throttle, and then you don't want to have to do all the tricks. And so I try to build stuff better without trying to lose the soul of the vintage Toyotas. We have people who are like, oh, we can do this and shave the dash and change this, or we can put this cluster in, and it's just like, no, it's got to have this cluster. I'm real specific on how I do certain things.
Oh yeah.
And I try to persuade people to let me build them how I think that they should be built, to respect, the heritage that they are, but makes it something that you can hop in with the family and go to church on Sunday, or go get ice cream, on a Friday evening. And not have to worry about anything.
I really dig your style and how you're doing it. I mean, we don't know you at all. We know you from our group, and Brandon said he's met you many years ago, but it seems like you bleed Toyota.
Yes, and it's something that I kind of fell into. So when I wanted a vintage rig, I was looking at old Discos and Troopers and Land Cruisers, but that squared SUV, and this is the one that popped up. The budget was right. I had the cash on hand, and I pulled the trigger on. But that's what I've always enjoyed about the automotive stuff, is if you find something that's really obscure, or seems to be obscure as an outsider, there's always a community for it.
Oh yeah, you are 100% on right that.
You bounce ideas off of, and in the shop all the time, we're always talking, bouncing ideas, and how can we do this better? What do you think about this and that? And this stuff you can kind of geek out on. That if take my in-laws for a second, they just oh, that's an old Jeep, and it's like, it's not a Jeep, and we'll leave it at that point.
Yeah.
It's really cool to how like the car community's always pull people together, and that's I guess why I've always had a passion for it, because it's not only the mental process, but it's also the friendships that you make out of it.
Oh,
and the growth
yes.
you get out of it.
See, that's what I like about the whole off-road scene is you really build camaraderie whenever you're wheeling with the group.
It's one of my favorite aspects of
Can
it.
be
Yeah.
complete strangers. Like Eric and I were complete strangers until we met up with the off-road group to do some wheeling.
Not even a year ago yet. We haven't.
It
even
was
seen
just
each other
over
a
a
year.
year ago,
Yeah.
actually. It was in August.
December. First run.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, hell, I don't know
Yeah. So
where
anyway,
I'm at
but it
anymore.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
December, okay.
Yeah.
So we met and did not know each other, but he had a 3rd Gen 4Runner. I had a 4th Gen 4Runner surrounded by Tacomas. And it's like we were kind of odd men out. The fact that we spent hours on the trail helping each other out over obstacles, trying to figure out where we're going and not leaving each other behind. It's like, hey, we were instant friends. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't even have a background on this guy, but I trust him to get me where I need to go.
Yeah, that's how the vintage Land Cruiser community is very much like that too. There's a core group of people that are really pushing this. I guess called industry at this point. It's a growing, it's the whole booming industry.
For
These
sure.
trucks are from small garages to $250,000, rigs. But so there's a core group that you talk to online and you bounce ideas of, and you use their products because they focus, they really geek out on this one thing. And so this last event that I went to is called what we call Southern Swine Soiree. So we take the old FJ55s, which are known as the Iron Pigs.
They look awesome.
Yeah, and I enjoy it, even though I don't own one. I enjoy it on the fact that I finally have these people that I talk to, and we develop friendships and business relations with to hang out with them, and you get to see their stuff, on hand, or like we're chasing down our sniper issue, and so I can turn to the one guy and say, hey, I know you sell this kit and you do this way, but why do you do it this way? Because I think X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so you get to understand people's different perspectives and grow with that. And even though you have different backgrounds, different beliefs, whatever, you have this one core idea, and that just automatically makes that bond and trust. Same thing like you're saying, we go out there and nobody's going to get left behind.
Exactly.
If you have the nice high-end built rig, or if you have the one that, we literally had a guy that bought one on the day before, I guess they headed out.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And then we had another group that bought one that was all original. They hadn't touched it quite yet, but they drove it all the way from Maine and back.
Oh no kidding.
Wow.
And they get to enjoy that, but they also know that when they got there, they had people who could help them with the issues that they had, or if they had issues between here and there. There's such a core group of people that can always be out there to help them, if they got into trouble. And it's always kind of neat to see how all that works out there.
So let me touch on the vintage aspect of the Toyotas. So from our particular area, it's very, very, very rare to see any type of vintage Toyota in general.
Mm-hmm.
So basically seeing from what you have and what you're posting, it's odd for like our area to see these vintage Toyotas, and it's really cool for us to see that.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't see that here.
No, we usually see all the new stuff.
It's all new stuff, your first gen 4Runner is as old as it gets around here. We've never seen one on the trail. You might see one at a car show, but I'm just going to go to Instagram for a second. Like when you go to Instagram photos of these old vintage Toyotas, it's usually out west. But you're right here in Southern Illinois. So it's a really cool community that you're a part of that is kind of
bridging the
we don't
gap.
see it. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm kind of numb to it because I'm around it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I go out all the time and people are like, oh, that's really awesome. Hey, do you know there's some guy out here, they build these things? And it's like, yeah.
Hey, that's me.
If you see anyone in this area, usually it's one of our trucks that we've built, or it's a buddy's shop that they've built. Like I said, we're out here, but we're always so close tied to each other that we all know each other's trucks. We all know, anybody. I get messages all the time like, hey, can you do this for me, or can you fix this? It's like, yeah, I'm not the guy to do that because that's not what I do, but here's 4 other people that are really good that can take care of you. You know, this is their specialty.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice to be able to turn back and forth to people like that and keep these things on the road. But like I said, for you guys to see that, you know, I know it's a rarity.
Very rare.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of us out here in the Midwest, like more than you'd think.
Oh, nice.
So the Glade Top trail alone, I mean, Brandon posted a video of, your whole convoy. And I'm going to guess that there was probably 20 of you guys.
I think it was about 20 this year.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's huge.
So
13 pigs and then a mix of 60s, 62s, and 80s.
So, I mean, that alone, I wish I could have gone, but that alone, just to see that on the trail would have been pretty epic. But, I mean, he said, like, a lot of those license plates weren't local. So, I mean, you guys are coming from a lot of different areas. He said Maine to meet here and do a meetup.
Yeah.
So, like, where are these guys, where are they all from?
And there's the Iron Pig community's definitely tighter niche because there's less of them out there.
Absolutely.
So they usually do 2 trail rides. We have Southern Swine, which kind of stays in the Midwest area, hence the Southern name. And then they have Pig Party, which is usually more out west. This year is out in the Badlands.
Oh, okay.
I had just gotten back from Utah, and I couldn't turn around and go back out and join them. So those are the two that they meet up to go together. But yeah, what's really cool about that group is they're rare trucks, but nobody's afraid to not wheel it. Like there's some really nice trucks that come out there, and there's one guy that's actually a Southern Missouri guy, or St. Louis-ish area, who has an Ellis Swap FJ55, and it's pristine.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Well, last year we were all going around this mud hole, and he went full tilt. Immediately got it stuck.
Oh, that's what I like to
hear. They enjoy
hear.
these trucks, and they enjoy wheeling them and serving a purpose. Like, no truck is too good to not, be used for what it's designed for, and they perform amazingly.
That's pretty epic, in all honesty, because I mean, we deal with, like you said, like a lot of the newer vehicles, and I say newer, I mean like from me having a 3rd gen 4Runner up, and I mean, I don't send it anymore, but I mean like all these newer vehicles that they're still manufacturing replacement parts for, they're not sending it, and so it's really cool to be able to see a vintage Toyota that still uses and abuses it. That's really epic.
Yeah. Well, that's always been kind of common perception about the FJ40s is that people don't wheel them because they don't want to tear them up. But I can take basically a crunchy shell truck and build one from a lot of parts from Toyota. I can still buy windshield fenders and all the stuff that you wouldn't think you'd be able to buy. Toyota still makes.
Really?
There's
very
a
interesting.
North that makes aluminum tubs. So now, these are getting to the point where all these trucks are getting really rusty.
Absolutely.
So we can either buy full tubs, half tubs, or 3/4 tubs, and graft them together and make a nice truck plus a truck that's now aluminum or mostly aluminum, so it won't have the same issues down the road. And their prices are reasonable, prospectively. You can build these trucks, like 65, 80 grand.
That's not bad.
Clean, brand new, like this is new motor, new everything.
Right, that's not bad at all whenever you start talking numbers.
Yeah.
So I admit that I'm not completely familiar with the older Toyotas. So like what years are we talking here? Like from the earliest rigs that are out there in that you're seeing and wheeling or dealing with? Like how far back are we dealing?
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot here because I'm rough on my years. So the Land Cruiser history, you started with the FJ25, which that's the Jeep, quintessential Jeep competitive.
Right.
It's very crude, very basic, just like the old military Jeeps were at the time. That was 50s.
Okay.
Right. And then they switched to the FJ40, which is a more refined what you see nowadays. And then in the FJ40s, you have an early, you kind of have a mid, and then you have a late. Earlies don't have padded dashes, and they got a big lever on the dash you pull down to put in 4-wheel drive, and and then the middle ones are getting more refined. We have padded dashes and might have a couple of options, and then the later models, which goes all the way to the 82, 83 kind of era. The biggest change is the bezel actually is squared, not the round like they used to be.
Okay.
And then it has all the mission stuff, but it also has like better heaters and better door seals and more creature comforts.
Right, I understand that, yeah.
And that's when the lines kind of deter, because a lot of people assume that you had the FJ40s and you had the 60 and 62. Well, the 60 and 62 are actually a wagon chassis. So the 55 is the predecessor to this truck right here.
Okay.
So that's a whole different line. And the 40s turned into what the 70 series are, which we never got in the States, where they kind of still kept very utilitarian, very purpose built. And the wagon size started turning in more to the luxury stuff. And you look to what this basically become was the 200 series, which is a $90,000 heated seats, air conditioned seats, not switches, crawl control, the whole 9 yards.
I know what you mean.
On the wagon platform, not based on the FJ40.
You know your stuff. You know your stuff.
A little bit. There's guys that geek out on this way more than I do.
Yeah. There's
stuff that people know exactly what years change certain things. I generally have kind of a secret sauce on how we build our trucks.
Okay.
So I keep to that recipe and I don't branch too far off of it. So when you get to the obscure stuff, that's maybe stuff that I may not see or know about.
Yeah.
But they're kind of very. The 40s are very similar into where you can take stuff off one truck and bolt it on another truck and it works. But they are very specific from year to year on certain aspects of it too.
Right.
So I want to touch bases back on the type of work you do. You talked a lot about installing like EFI setups and engine swaps. What all type of work do you do on these vehicles? Do you do body work? Do you do like roll cages?
Right now we do body off restorations.
Okay.
So almost everything that we get is complete tear down and rebuild.
Okay.
It just fits my work schedule, be able to put this in on the side and so we don't branch too far off that. I'm pushing more into metalworking fabrication.
Okay.
As I'm trying to build these trucks better, I'm looking at link suspension and coils because they'll ride better, and just trying to figure out how to refine that stuff without taking it, a setup that's meant for wheeling where you have Heim joints and rough rides and stuff. Like I don't want to take away from that, the comforts of how we make the leaf springs work. So we're kind of getting more in that area. All the body stuff is always outsourced. Like when we do aluminum tubs, I'll fit in all the panels, but then the body shop finishes all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of taking apart, putting back together, but it's taking apart and making better and putting it back together.
I hear you. So you're capable of like doing a rebuild in the front differential, or maybe doing a quick fresh up on a transmission?
That stuff usually gets outsourced because of the specialty tools that are needed.
Okay, I got you.
Especially when you get into the transmissions and transfer cases, you got to have a lot of pulls and presses and stuff.
Oh, I know.
And there's guys who've been doing this for 30 years, and so it's easier to put in a pallet and ship it out to them and let them, rebuild that, and then when it comes back, it's good.
So you do have a trusted people you use, though.
Yeah. Like I said, we're very, and there's a core group of people that we always kind of take stuff to certain people. Like we have, if you want motor stuff, there's a guy in Memphis called Mosley Motors. He's the sniper guy. He's the 2F guy. He's been able to produce amazing performance out of these old motors. Trucks that were meant to do 50, 55 are now doing 75, 80 miles an hour.
That's respectable. Yeah.
These motors now. And so if you want something like that, it's like, okay, well, that's the guy you need to go to.
Okay.
Our focus is just good quality stuff and trying to make the trucks better than they were. Which is
that sounds
some stuff.
Oh, I hear you. Especially on Toyota. They really got their thoughts straight before they produce something.
Yeah. They're extremely well-built trucks. I just like to make them more comfortable is kind of my thing.
So
more enjoyable, because people, people who want them nowadays are not the types that get it, aspect of getting an old truck and then fighting. Like I said, fighting gears and trying to figure out why stuff's not working. They just want to get in, put it in gear, or even shifting to gear. We have stuff where they want to put automatics in them because they just don't want to work.
I hear you.
I understand. I understand.
By the way, if you feel like if you want to, go ahead and drop some contacts on our social media to your page and whoever you work with for those who may be interested.
Yeah. So the two, like, if you want to see building stuff, I usually show progress on my Instagram stories. I'm built by Budski. It's just kind of a name I've had for quite a while, and I decided to roll with it. You'll see a lot of event stuff on that page, and that's when I mainly use. You may catch some of the family farm is fishery stuff, so you may see some fish related items sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get sucked into fixing some heavy equipment. So you may see some more out that. The Instagram for our group we call Shuz Voodoo Cruisers. It's kind of a clubhouse. We'll show kind of what we're doing. The same thing. We'll show some events. Don't update it as much as we should, but those are usually the two main places you can find the content of what we're doing. If you ever want to reach out to us, we also keep a decent supply of used parts and have access to new parts. And we're kind of been doing a lot more parts sales nowadays too, on top of building these trucks.
Well, I'll be in contact with you because I'm really wanting to do a solid axle swap on my first gen.
Yeah. Well, and anytime you guys come out, like I said, we're about 2 hours from St. Louis. Shawnee National Forest is our backyard.
Oh yeah.
And that's a whole another topic we can get into.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah. Let's go. I want to hear about it. If you know places, I'm ready to drive.
I want to talk on the engine swaps on those. So, the LS swap is a pretty common swap for one, because, they're everywhere. They're fairly easy to work on. They're relatively cheap at this point. Let's face it. But what are some other, I don't want to say obscure engine swaps, but do you see any like BT4 swapped into them, or what other engine swaps are you seeing?
Well, I see a lot of the 1UZ and the 2UZ V8s out there, Sequoias, and was it 4th Gen 4Runners that had the V8?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll see that sometimes, and the newer 100 Series Land Cruisers. The R28 Cummins is a great one. I see a lot of people do, and it produces, from what I've heard, a really good product. Haven't done one yet. I keep on trying to find someone who wants that done. And then the last one that I'm really wanting to do is an EV one.
Okay.
An electric?
Yep.
Let's hear it. So
this is again another debate between me and my buddy. He's old school, and I'm like, dude, we need to kind of get into this electric stuff.
Hey, there's room for both. I still like my gas engines, but I think the EV world is really cool. So I'm for it.
So I really geek out on that kind of stuff. I potentially might do electric swap on this if the LS ever goes out. My thing's still range. They're getting 350 miles out of range, and that's doable. For me, it'd be like the 450 is kind of where I'd pull the trigger on it, because that just gives me a little bit more that I want on it. The idea would be to go out remote, camp, have fun, and then maybe 1 or 2 days go to a KOA and plug into some RV, out, 220, and let it charge overnight, reset, and then go back out again. And I think if that technology reaches that point, then it, that opens the door for a lot of things. EVs have a lot of benefits to it. I don't know if you guys ever follow any of the Rivian stuff that Motor.
I have been. The Rivian looks like it's pretty capable.
Yeah.
I like it.
They just did the Transamerica Trail, which is, to go from one coast to the other on almost all gravel is in a full electric vehicle is such a cool concept. And logistically, they had to figure stuff out, but the benefits that they talked about having full electric, offset quite a big experience. You'd have to go to hotels so you can plug in, but we gained being electric. Like they said, they'd roll through areas, and since there's no gas motor, the wildlife doesn't get disturbed. So they were talking about, you see all these animals and these deers and stuff out there because they hear the noise of the tires on the ground, but the motor isn't there, so it doesn't scare them off.
Right. They also don't get the smell of the petrol or diesel, which is huge in those areas. You're talking animal senses. Their sense of smell is one of the biggest ones. They smell you coming before they hear you.
Yeah.
Now, I talked about the EVs on one of my last podcasts here. And, like I said, I believe there's room for both. And I don't want, and I feel like they're trying to kill the gas engine. And I don't want that to happen. But let's just talk like the Rivian itself. I'm familiar with it. And then like the new Ford Lightning and whatnot. The new Hummer even.
Yeah.
The new Hummer comes with 35s on it. And I said, they said that if you lift, like they did the electronic airlift or whatever, however you lift it, you can fit 37s on it, which is a very capable tire. But now the Rivian, I don't know as far as like the lift goes. So to do like overlanding, the Rivian would probably be just fine. But to be able to do anything more complicated, you're talking like it's like a 265 tire, and they do have that air lift on them. But I don't know the aftermarket support if it's ever going to have like a lift available for it to make it more off-road capable.
I'm sure it'll happen because as soon as people kind of get their hands on this thing, anybody who's really interested in them, or people that geek out of this stuff. So the first thing they're gonna do is want to take it apart and see how it works.
Yeah.
See how to adapt it for their needs. On the Transamerica, they actually did Black Bear Pass with it.
Oh, did they?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's not, they did that. They did parts of Moab. I think they did Hot Tub in Moab.
Okay, well, I didn't see this though.
But they're showing that it can do what is capable. And the biggest thing about the Rivian is that they're independent motors on each side. So while you can't lift it, you have nothing underneath that truck. Your ground clearance is way higher because there's no axles, there's nothing, no drivetrain hanging down, and so you can kind of get away with smaller tires. But I'm sure there'll be somebody immediately trying to figure out how to put bigger tires on this thing and get a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Like you said, like the four-wheel motors, and while I mean, almost any stock truck, you can almost fit one size bigger under anyhow. But I mean, like once you start going with like a 10-ply tire, which is heavier, or even one size bigger, then you're drastically decreasing the longevity of your battery. Where you might have a range of 300, you might be down to 200 or less even with steep inclines and bigger tires. Which I'm sure these are problems that are going to be addressed and that are going to come up.
So, quick story, not to go off too far.
Oh, you're fine.
When I had the harmonic balancer brake, I had to get flat towed to pavement to get picked up and towed into town. And as much as I hate to admit it, I got flat towed by a Jeep, but I got flat towed by the 4xe.
Okay.
Oh,
okay,
really?
Yeah.
So that was such a cool experience. So go back to the noise thing. So I can't run my truck because I have no balancer on. He's not running his truck because he's pulling me, and there's so much resistance that it gained 20 miles of charge, pulling us out to pavement.
Really?
So it gained range pulling us because it had that load on us, and then we had the windows down, and the guy that was driving the Jeep is big into the rock face, so he's telling us all about the history and all this stuff, and you get to take it all in a different way because there's, like I said, there's no noise. You're not focusing on, am I running hot? Am I, you don't have to focus on all this other stuff. You just get to take it all in. And that was actually one of the best parts of the trip, was that experience of that breakdown, aside from the adventure of being broken down. But we kind of saw this part of the event through a different view. And it would have been completely different if we were dealing with a gas Jeep. You may not experience the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of one of the things that I really noticed. Me and my buddy that was with me, I turned to him. I was just like, dude, this is wild how it's dead silent. We're getting pulled out of here, and we get to just enjoy this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's kind of what really sparked my interest about the Rivian at that point. It's like, man, if you could accomplish the same feeling, it's a different way to enjoy this. I'd love to have a full electric truck at some point.
So I was watching a YouTube channel, and it was with that Jeep EV, and he took it to the drag strip. And he was, I don't want to quote the exact number, but it was actually a pretty ridiculous quarter mile number out of that EV. I want to say it was like a 13-second quarter mile, which I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's pretty respectable for a off-road vehicle, a 13-second quarter mile.
Yeah.
Out of the EV, and then he'd go back and he'd run the engine, full charge again, and then run it again. And then he stripped it down, he took all the back seats out and everything. And he was achieving a pretty decent quarter mile with that EV.
Yeah, no, it's the Hummer is a really good example. It's like a 0 to 60 in 3 seconds or something stupid. Which is, you're talking about a full-size truck packed full of batteries.
I know.
On big tires that can pull that kind of pull is just unreal nowadays.
That's fast.
Yeah, I'm totally a gearhead, gas guy, but the new technology and the way things are going really excites me, and the potential there. that was not there before. The driving, or trying to wheel with electric motor. You have, instead of like feathering your brake and then like downing your gears, you don't have any of that. You may just press the button, it loads up the electric motors more, so it has more resistance, and so your down gearing is endless at that point.
Right.
But going up, you have full torque at 0 miles an hour, so there's no build up to get up to things. It's just, the power's there, so it's going to be a different experience if you get more into the hardcore wheeling stuff. Instead of just doing like the outdoor overlanding thing.
Just imagine how more simplified that is for an off-road vehicle. No more lockers, no dual transfer cases, no aftermarket transfer cases. I mean, all you got to worry about is tires and lift.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
I think at the top, the technology would get there. Like I said, I don't think gas is necessarily going anywhere anytime soon. But as people see the new thing and what the potential are, we're probably going to see a big shift. Not in just the automotive world, but in the off-road world as EVs become more popular, and people start seeing what they're capable of.
Now the Hummer though, I think that's what $110,000 though out the box.
But that's a that's a high dollar luxury vehicle. That's not just a normal vehicle that you drive every day. I mean, this thing can crab walk.
Daily driver, miss 0 miles per gallon.
Right. This thing can crab walk from lane to lane.
Yeah.
That's not just an average person's vehicle,
Yeah,
I mean, the Rivian comes in at a... Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, you take that aspect, so that's $110,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so a new Land Cruiser is $98,000.
Yeah.
A Ram TRX is $120,000,
That's badass, though.
The price point at that, you're similar. It's just, you're comparing, apples to oranges. Like, what's your tool? How are you going to use it for? These are all tools for us, and we all build these trucks to fit a certain need that we want. And the manufacturers are doing the same thing. They're trying to build, Rivian's very overland focused. Hummer's very, performance and more, desert runner kind of focused.
Yeah.
What's the Badger? There's one that looks like, a pre-runner truck. I don't remember the name of the manufacturer. So these manufacturers are kind of get the same idea. They're like, people are going to spend this money. They're going to buy it for a specific thing, where the majority of the population buys a Tesla because it's an appliance and they don't want to pay the gas.
I guess I'm still stuck in the era of a truck should only cost $40,000, but now we're to the point where an F-350 Platinum's almost $100,000.
Oh,
so that's where we're at now, and it's just hard to accept.
Yeah.
Well, you got to figure these type of vehicles aren't just for the regular person. They have a special duty. Whoever's buying an F-350, they're not just driving it because they want to drive it. They're working. They need that tow power. They need that room.
Well, and even then, like, they may just buy it just for the lifestyle.
That's true if they can afford it.
They may not be loaded full lumber every weekend, but they enjoy the lifestyle of that truck, or they like stance trucks, so they like big diesels that have big wide wheels on them.
Yeah.
Right, but they can afford that. That's their hobby, just like hot rods or overland vehicles. There's a niche for everybody.
Yeah. I say you tell people that you have an $8,000 tent strapped to your roof, they look at you like you're a moron. Where it's the coolest thing ever.
Right, exactly. It's like I got like a 5-minute setup and I'm sleeping in the mountains or by a lake or a creek or somewhere probably no one's ever been. Mm-hmm. That $8,000 comes in handy because it's -20 out right now.
I was just my last podcast I did. I was talking about traction boards. This is kind of on the $8,000 thing, but I'm talking like you have. I have traction boards on my roof, and I mean, a lot of us overlanders, off-roaders have traction boards, whether you use them or not, we have them. But it's funny because like you go into Walmart parking lot and you might get that random guy like, what are those things up there? And they're like, oh, well, they're traction boards. Like, well, what do you mean by traction boards? And then you're like, well, because if you get stuck in sand or mud, you use them or stack them, but it's the niche, we have these tools and these toys that we have or use, and other people don't get it, so we spend this money on things that other people don't understand. So, but all right. Hey, you know what? Let's talk about the Shawnee National Forest.
All right.
So, over there, how's it go over there?
So Shawnee National Forest is a very overlooked spot. And this is something we always talk about. I always see people in the Midwest overlanding. They're all going to land between lakes. They're all going Mark Twain, and they always pass through Shawnee, and it always gets overlooked. And it's finally getting to that point now as this hobby has grown, you know, and the numbers get bigger. People are looking for like the new thing.
Yeah.
So we're starting to kind of branch out more into the Shawnee. We're trying to get more structured. I'm trying to build a river-to-river trail that basically goes from Mississippi to Ohio, that goes through Shawnee, just kind of like how they have the Ozark Adventure Trail or, you know, the Kentucky Adventure Trail. But if you feel like, you know, really want to explore, it's a great place to come down and just get your implement map and kind of see like where this goes, and you'll stumble on just a lot of cool gems. It's not documented well. A lot of locals keep stuff, you know, real close, you know, to themselves, and we don't go bragging around, you know, where spots are.
It's good though. That keeps the trails alive.
Yeah.
So tell me, what kind of trails are you looking at in the Shawnee National Forest? Are you looking at more overland based, or do you got stuff that's kind of obstacle ridden and really uses some technical aspect to it?
Well, that's a really nice thing about the Shawnee. So Shawnee is basically divided into two parts. You have the Mississippi side, and we have the west side, or the east side, which is the Ohio River side.
Right.
So the Mississippi side is very muddy, lots of trees. You know, a lot of silt. Like you can get stuck pretty quick and get yourself into trouble. Has a decent couple of good viewpoints because of how the Mississippi had, you know, over the years had cut stuff out. Where if you go over to the Ohio side, it's very rocky. It's a little bit more open. So the terrain changes. You know, you have shelves to go up. Trails get more complicated. But there's always a mix for everything for everybody. Where we have gravel roads, we have 2 tracks, and then we have stuff that hasn't been maintained for years, and people have been out there a long time. It shows. You know.
Okay. So, I mean, well, obviously you were at Glade Top last weekend, but have you spent much time over here in Mark Twain Forest? And the reason I ask is I'm just trying to get a comparison.
That was actually the first time I've been out to Mark Twain. I tried to go there last year, and because of COVID, like certain things were closed, I couldn't gain access, and I ended up going to Arkansas. Down I guess it's Buffalo River area.
Ooh, beautiful area.
Yeah, it's where we had Southern Swine last year. Was out there.
Oh, okay. Nice.
People talk smack about Arkansas, but man, they got some beautiful stuff out
there. I love
Arkansas.
I love Arkansas. It is so beautiful. And I mean, okay, Missouri's tallest mountain, hill, mountain, whatever you want to call it, 1,700 feet. And then, you know, in the Washita National Forest, you have Mount Magazine at 3,300 feet.
Wow.
I mean, that's a pretty sizable, you know, mountains or hills.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's for us, that's 6 hours away, versus going to the Smoky Mountains, which is 9 hours away, or the Rocky Mountains, which is 16 hours away.
Yeah.
You know, it's very beautiful down there, and it's still very remote and like, I don't know, a very southern small town feel. The whole state of Arkansas feels like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of how it is down here. And the nice thing about here is, like I said, we're about 2.5 hours away from St. Louis.
Yeah.
So I feel like Shawnee's a great place if you just want to get away for a weekend, but don't want to spend a day driving there, and then you spend half a day camping, wheeling, and then you got to pack up to, you know, drive the whole day back. You know, we have like a little bit for everybody. You have kayaking, we have big rock climbing down here. Jackson Falls is a very famous place to go climb at. We have, I'm trying to think what else we have. And if you get into like just backpacking, we have a river hiking trail that people do. Mountain biking, and it's a little bit of everything out here. It's just not, the biggest issue is it's not documented, and people don't spend time here to really see the value in it and what it has to offer. But
So you're
I really
saying
do think there's something for everybody out here. Depending what you're
it's
interested
basically a hidden gem or a hidden treasure.
in. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's
Which
places
is-
I've been to that just I never would think would be out here.
You know,
One of my
with
favorite camping spots, which is a secret that I don't tell anybody about, is something that I just totally stumbled upon at one time, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how do people not know about this? I have my own private pond and had my own like fire ring, but it's
wow.
way off the trail to where people just don't go out there except maybe during hunting season.
Right.
Well, see, that's perfect. You stuff gets too populated. Like my favorite camp spot's called Cook Spring. It's down in Lesterville area in the Mark Twain National Forest. I've been going down there since I was a wee little kid. Honestly, Bob Chandler, aka the Bigfoot monster truck, used to wheel down there. Now you go down there. Back in the day, it used to be private. Nobody knew about it. It was very secluded. You'd find a camping spot and you won't get bothered. Now you got side-by-sides, ATVs,
Side-by-sides
trucks everywhere. Compared to where you're at, you got hidden gems to where you're actually in the middle of nowhere and no one knows you're there. No one else is going there. And it's all to you compared to you have to share it. I know it sounds kind of greedy, but whenever you're going out and doing this stuff, you don't want to be disturbed, You want to have that privacy to yourself.
Yeah. Well, a big thing about the Shawnee that I'll go and point out is there is no off-road trails in Shawnee. So there's no legal four-wheel drive trails, but we have U.S. Forest roads that will provide quite a bit of challenge.
Okay.
There's also no ATV, UTVs allowed.
Well, you know what? That's actually really nice.
That is
I'll
the
tell you
best
this part
part.
about it too. Like they'll impound 20 at a time.
Really?
Because
Yeah, there'll be whole groups that come out here, and the law enforcement out here, and the rangers and whoever else may be involved, they'll spend the time to track people down because they're super strict about that stuff.
I like to hear that because most side-by-sides or ATVs, they destroy the trails. They fly through it.
Yeah.
They're so light and so overpowered that they just tear stuff up, and they make a nice trail rutted and tore up to where you don't even want to drive it anymore. And it's not even, hey, I don't want to drive this. It's, hey, you're destroying this land. You're creating erosion. You're literally taking this mountain and flattening it out because you're acting a fool.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that damage out last weekend in Glaytop, where you could tell that there are mud holes that isn't an issue for us, but you can tell that bypasses were cut for side-by-sides because that's a serious hole for them, and they just cut around it. And it's kind of a shame to see the difference in the destruction and the lack of, I won't say lack of respect, but maybe the lack of understanding.
Yes.
I don't think anybody who does this stuff is doing it on purpose to damage it. I think a lot of them just aren't aware of the options or the restrictions or what their long-term damage is, because educational in this world seems to be lacking a lot.
It is. It's very, very obsolete on the education of this. I mean, I've spent years, 2-3 years researching, what's legal, what can I do with my truck, and there's not much out there except for some places have fines for crossing rivers.
Yeah, out here, and that's kind of also why things are kind of kept quiet around here, is because we don't want people coming out here tearing stuff up. So we have a group called Jeep and Shawnee, who's a fantastic group, and they've been pushing really hard to work with the U.S. Forest Service, and I work with a lot of them directly too to try to figure out solutions for this. I think they're aware of the potential of tourism and potential abuse that they're missing out on. They're starting to kind of let us open up some roads back up again. We have massive volunteers that come out. Jeep and Shawnee's a lot of that. I won't say that that's me or I'm doing all that stuff, but the guy that runs that, we had a campground that's called Pine Hills over on the Mississippi side. That's a great place to camp. It has a great scenic drive, 2-track drive, if you ever go out there. But that's kind of his home base. Like, he takes a lot of pride in that. And we had some people trash it one evening.
Okay.
And they ended up closing the gates on it until they could kind of figure out how to fix it. Well, Joe called Forest Service. He said, hey, what can we do to kind of help you guys out? And they're just like, oh, we could use the people here to kind of fix all the ruts that they cut through and all stuff. And so we go out there, and Forest Service shows up like with their, I think they had about 6 people. Well, they had about 30, 40 chiefs show up and about 50 volunteers.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Good.
And we get out there, and it turns out to be like a handful of ruts. And so that gets fixed immediately, but then everybody goes picking trash. Everybody goes cleaning out fires. Everybody, takes pride in what they're doing. And so that shows the service that, we're not a bunch of heathens that are tearing up trails, but a lot of us actually care for it. And we're trying to involve, people who are interested in Jeeping, get them involved so they come out and do these projects and take pride in, the Shawnee, but also gain that understanding that, oh, me throwing my beer bottle in here doesn't, I throw it in there and it disappears. It's not my problem. It doesn't go away. Somebody has to come back and clean it up.
No,
and
it affects everybody.
Like, well, I'm not going to throw my bottle in there. I'm just going to throw it in the trash like I should.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them maintenance.
Yeah, we just had a bunch of, we're an hour away from Potosi District of Mark Twain National Forest. And we just recently had a bunch of trails closed down, and it's really sad. And I'm talking with another local group. Well, SMS Overland, they're actually a fantastic group, and we're kind of throwing some ideas off each other on what we could possibly do. But I've talked about this before, but when I was younger, I had a 4-wheeler, and I used to take it down to that same area, and I used to be that asshole. When you're younger and you're 21, you get a case of beer, strap at the back of your 4-wheeler, and you really didn't think about the long-term consequences. And later in life, you kind of start to understand what your actions were as a younger person have long-term, and it's eye-opening. And because I admit full-heartedly that I was that asshole at one time. And I think a lot of younger people are, but now when I go to a campsite, you try to make it at least your immediate area better than it was when you left it.
Right. This is our home. We're not going out to tear these places up. We're going out to explore. We're going out to see nature in places no one has really ever been. You know what the Arch looks like, I'm sure. Everybody's been to downtown St. Louis, been to a ball game. Everybody knows that experience. But have you seen Shawnee National Forest? Have you seen all these epic places off the map that are not talking about? That's why we're here, We're not here to destroy the place. We're here to observe it in its natural beauty. So respecting what we're doing is what's going to keep our community open. Because like Eric just said, a huge portion of where we used to wheel and explore and hang out is shut down because of disrespect.
Yes.
We're not here to tear it up. Yes, we might get stuck at an obstacle. It might be rainy and wet, and we really got to push it through this obstacle, but we are also here to find ways to, 1, avoid that, and 2, help us around that so we're not destroying it and we can preserve it for future generations. We don't want it to just.
Okay.
We don't want it to just be our generation. I want my kids to be able to drive through these places and see it like I drove to these places to where Bob Chandler and Bigfoot been. I want future generations to experience this, and if we keep disrespecting it, we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's something that we're really trying to push out here, is trying to make Shawnee more of a place to check out, even if you're just passing through. And like I said, we're trying to work with Forest Service to try to figure out a solution to educate people and do this correctly, because the hard truth I was told one time is the person that decides on these trails and what gets maintained and what gets closed, their paycheck's the same regardless. So if something gets torn up constantly and you're making more work for them, it's easier for them just to close it, and because they're not going to work extra for the same amount of money. And that's just the sad truth on that. You get people in there that don't see it as a job, or maybe they just hit that age where they they're constantly having to fix stuff and they get just burned out on it. And so we're trying to really work with them to like I said, show that there's a big community out here who support this and want to help maintain it, and to show that we're here to help them in volunteer hours, but in return we're trying to get them to do better mapping, better labeling, offer educational stuff to them. And they're kind of opening up to that a little bit more. It's a long process, but they now do classes to teach us how to use chainsaws correctly. So like certain people among the community are certified to cut down trees in Shawnee National Forest. Because technically, if you're out there wheeling it down trees there, you're not supposed to cut it.
Really? See, now in the Missouri side, you're able to harvest the wood. If it's a down tree, like if I was to heat my house with firewood, you can legally go out and harvest that wood, bring it home.
Well, I should rephrase that. You're not allowed to use a chainsaw because there's a liability involved.
Oh, I see where it's going. If your chainsaw breaks, you hurt yourself. Yeah. Something happens, the liability of it.
Yeah, so they've been kind of weird about that, but now they're allowing people to get training in the safety precautions. And there's, like I said, there's people that are certified to actually go out there with them to help clear trails.
I'm a tree trimmer by trade.
Oh. Yeah, they make you do the full get up on stuff, and I'd like to get on some of those classes too.
Well, no, that's very good. That's good because a couple weeks ago we actually had an event and we had a full-size Ford F-150 out at our local off-road park. I was given permission to do what I need to, cut down trees and whatever. I know these people at the park. This guy got stuck, and we had to cut down some trees to help get him out.
Yeah.
And, being that we were at a off-road park, I had permission. I know these people to cut down these trees. It was no big deal. But if you go to National Forest and you start cutting down trees, it's almost, you probably get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of gray areas, which is always an issue too. Like, there's certain things that need to be clarified a little bit better.
Yeah.
There's stuff all the time where I'll be talking to them. They're like, oh, well, they'll tell me, something, that I was not aware of. It's like, oh, I didn't know we couldn't do that. Or I didn't know, like they're real strict about bypasses. Like if you can't pass, you should turn around.
I understand that.
Yeah. But some people don't know that. Like, oh, well, that looks a little too deep, so I'm going to just cut around the other way. And it's
I would say most of us are probably guilty of that at one time, though.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing where if the person knows who to contact about road repairs, because like I said, these are all forest roads, and they have only a handful of people, so they certain things don't get maintained.
Right.
And so if you're able to reach out and say, hey, we have this washout or something like that, they can reach out to the community about doing some trail maintenance, or they bring in their own crew. And there's a lot of opportunity there that just seems to be missed. And this may be true for other national forests too. But just trying to get that information out there, getting that education out there to where people can work better with each other because we're on the same page.
For sure. 100%.
He didn't tearing up the trails, and we see the government is shutting stuff down because they can. So
I have a quick story about well, I guess it's technically in the Shawnee National Forest. So I used to be bigger into backpacking. So it may have been Instagram even, something that caught my eye over there. It's Giant City State Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's technically in the Shawnee National Forest.
It is, but it isn't. It's not part of Shawnee. That's all state. But Shawnee's broken up where there's pockets of stuff like that. So
I've grown up in the Mark Twain National Forest, in the woods in general. I've spent many of night in the woods, whether it's alone or with a group of people. But Giant City State Park had this really cool backpacking trail over there. I think it was like 12 miles or something like that. So I got over there, and it was kind of late in the evening. So I got as many miles as I could in that evening. I just decided to set up a hammock that night. So my only quote unquote Bigfoot experience was over there in Illinois.
Oh, there's a big following out here. Yeah, the Sasquatch is kind of a popular icon for Shawnee National Forest. I've heard a lot of stories. I haven't seen or heard anything myself, but
yeah, it was
history that out here.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't I didn't see anything, but it's the experience that I had. It was really wild, and being completely by myself, it had me on very high alert all night long, and I never could figure out how. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so I said I was late to camp. I'm setting up camp right at dark. It's getting dark. I can still see a little bit, so I'm camping right next to a creek, so I can filter my water out in the morning or whatever I need. So the forest is dead quiet. This is actually the middle of summer, so it's not a very flowing creek. It's not something that you can really hear. So all of a sudden, a rock gets splashed into the water. Not like a rolling rock, like just rolled over. Gets splashed into the water. So I'm looking around. I kind of just take a second. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that was for sure. Okay. So a few minutes go by. I think I'm starting a fire at this point. So it happens again. A bigger splash in the water, like something's throwing the rock, not like it's rolling over in the creek. It's not a natural just rolling water creek, So the second rock is thrown into the water. So now I'm on really high alert, So I get my flashlight. I'm looking through the woods. I can't see anything, so I'm like, hello, is anybody out there? And of course nothing. It's dead quiet. So I'm like, I don't know. So I'm starting to get, I did not say freaked out, but very alert.
Yeah.
So then, a few minutes goes by, I start to relax a little bit again, sitting by the fire, maybe cook my ramen noodles, whatever. And then it happens a third time.
Wow.
So now I'm up. I'm on very, very high alert now. Now I'm actually like the hair on the back of my neck standing up at this point, And I'm looking through the woods. I'm making noise now. I'm looking through the woods. I can't see nothing. I didn't hear it, like anything walk up or walk away. But it was very clearly 3 different times a rock got thrown into the creek right next to where I was at.
Yeah, it'd be a pass for me.
So I can't tell you to this day. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, there's plenty of stories out here about scenarios like that. Like I said, I haven't had any personal experiences yet, but
yeah,
it's funny. Just on the same topic, like the being out there in the quiet, like you become hypersensitive. Like you're so used to just all this input and outputs and stuff going on. So I've noticed now when I go out to the woods, especially if I'm solo, I can't just sit there.
I know what you mean.
Like, gotta do
you
something.
Have to keep moving, keep doing something.
Yeah, it's like I gotta have maybe music going, or I gotta be doing something like. And so I finally started to break that habit, and I go out to Shawnee as much as I can.
Yeah.
Just try to break myself of not getting comfortable. So for a while there, I was going out quite a bit, and just finally feel like you're getting back to nature and getting used to enjoying your environment.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always try to like pass on to people. Like, you just need to get out there. Like, you don't need a 4-wheel drive. You don't need, anything special to get in some of these nice spots. Get out of the main campsite. Just go somewhere a little bit more quiet and you're by yourself. Or get your family involved. Bring your kids out and let them experience that too. I think it's very important to have. Along with the fact that you get to have like good stories about hearing rocks hit the water.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy.
So where exactly are you at over there?
So I'm just north of Marion, Illinois. So if you know where SIU is in Carbondale.
Yeah.
All right. So basically you have Carbondale and Marion, and I'm in an area just like north of that.
Okay, I got you. I got the general vicinity then. Yeah,
Shawnee's about 30 minutes, like 25 to 30 minutes for me to get like deep into it.
Okay, nice.
It's literally in the backyard. It's been kind of nice to have that access.
Yeah, sure.
I used to, live in St. Louis, and to get out of the city is a big ordeal. Where now I have the advantage of just going out. Even on my own property, we have woods and plenty of acres.
Yeah.
Get some time out there, and like I said, there's so much out there that just you don't know until you get out there and check it out for yourselves.
Oh yes.
Well, I mean, I'm I'm very interested in coming over there and exploring. Honestly, like Sean, I mean, like you said, 2 hours. I mean, we've traveled 2 hours for a lot less.
Oh yeah, it'd be really nice to get out, get an event together, and get a close knit group of friends out and see what
Just
the
a camping
Shawnee's
trip.
all about.
I mean, nothing crazy. Just a overland type style camping trip would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that might be. So this, I usually try to do a winter trail ride. For me, I'm a big winter camper.
I love winter camping.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. So,
oh yeah, I look forward to it.
I'll try to post up the winter trail ride and some information on it. I don't usually trail lead stuff because there's too many factors and it becomes more of a job. Like it's hard to enjoy.
I'm that guy. I know all about it.
But it'd be a great opportunity for those. Like I said, Pine Hills is a great campground. We could all camp out there and sit. I'd be glad to share some spots. Like, hey, if you want to, here's some places to go check out. There's a lot of history. Like I said, there's great hiking trails and climbing. And if you're big into waterfalls, like Shawnee has a ton of waterfalls.
Oh yes, that'd be great. See, that'd be more of an intimate group. People who we know and trust.
Me, you, and Brandon.
Right. We got a couple of people in our group with street legal rigs who are willing to do this stuff and who I know will be respectful of it because honestly, I'm a good judge of character. I've wheeled with these people. I trust them to respect the area because I watched how they acted. So I wouldn't bring them to somewhere where you would call your backyard,
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Pine Hills is a good spot. And like I said, maybe I'll try to get something together to where everybody can at least come out and hang out. If anything, camp. And, if you choose to go out and explore, I'll bring some of the motor vehicle use maps to hand out. So that's the way to officially tell because we have a lot of winter closures. December into like March, a lot of stuff's closed seasonally.
Really?
But I can get the maps out there and maybe point out to a few places. But that tells you where you legally are. So if you ever run into Ranger or Park Service or any Leos and stuff like that, you say, hey man, I have a map. I think I'm here. If you're not supposed to be there, they'll tell you that, but you're at least attempting to do it legally.
Right. That's very important for our community is to be respectful of the law so you don't ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah. Like I said, they're real particular out here and they're real protective about certain aspects of it. That's definitely something that maybe we can get together here come later November, early December.
Yeah, we actually have an event early December here at our local park. December 4th, we're doing a night crawl. So it's actually Pruitt Mountain Off-Road. That's our go-to park. I know that park very well. I got quite a few trails I can take people on that I know and trust.
2 hours away. Pine Hills is only 2 hours from us.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's really close, actually.
Go through, take Route 3, and that falls along the Mississippi, and it's real beautiful out there.
As long as I don't go through Cairo. I don't want to go through Cairo. I don't have to go through Cairo, do I?
No, it's on the very tip. That's way down.
Okay. I hate going through Cairo.
It's not that bad. It's definitely an interesting town, I'll tell you that much.
Very.
No.
Is it like the city?
Worse.
Ew.
It's a weird spot. Like I don't understand how that happened there.
If you ever get time, look in the history of that town. It has a very interesting history, very violent history too.
Apparently.
And what it was and what it could have been will astound you, especially when you go down there now and you look around and you see nothing. I did a fun little trail ride from just north of Chester. Okay. Basically, we took the Mississippi Levee access roads and basically followed along the Mississippi all the way down to the very southern tip. And so it dumps you in this town, which is kind of surreal. Spend all this time on these country roads and on this gravel, and then all of a sudden you're in this city, but it's almost a ghost town at that point.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Are you able to ride those levees like that far legally? Is that?
Yeah, those are all roads.
Okay.
If you have stuff like Gaia or Onyx, there's a couple private properties that are I don't get how it works because engineers have to have access, but it's gated and locked, which I didn't think they're supposed to do that. But that could be some weird, legality thing that I don't know about. But yeah, you can basically go from Columbia, Illinois, all the way down to the southern tip to where the Ohio and Mississippi meet, which is kind of cool too, because you have these two major rivers and you can see them, two different colors actually like kind of mix with each other right at the of Illinois.
I've been to the convergence where the Missouri Mississippi meet, and like you said, that is a breathtaking experience. That is a once in a lifetime opportunity right there.
Yeah, it's a fun drive down there. There's an old fort that's fairly intact that has a whole bunch of history on it.
Nice.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's drawing a blank. But you can turn the trip into more of a kind of see all of Southern Illinois. We have a ton of wineries out here. We have a ton of tourist kind of stuff too. So I
hiked the Illinois, the Grand Canyon of Illinois, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I hiked that. Little Grand Canyon, that's what it is. Yeah, I did hike that, and that's pretty astounding. That's a really neat. Yeah. I mean, it's a really neat area.
Yeah, it's good hiking down there. We have Garden of Gods, which is the iconic tourist spot out here. But there's also some good camping by there too. You have Bellsmith Springs, which is a great little swimming hole.
Okay.
And like I said, you have Jackson Falls, which has some hiking trails, but it's mainly a lot of rock climbers go down there. You show up there spring break and you can't find a place to park.
Really?
Campsites are full. Like, it's a huge tourist spot where a lot of people come out.
Jackson Falls?
Yeah, Jackson Falls is a really cool one. I took my oldest out there. We camped out, and he just had a blast. Just hiking the trails, climbing all the big rocks.
Oh yeah, this sounds like a blast.
Yeah,
see that
right his alley.
This is exactly why I changed from a hot rod, street-driven vehicle to a more off-road driven, because you get to see places that will blow your mind, that you would never believe existed. Just on a fairly capable stock truck. I mean, like my 4th gen, both my vehicles are basically stock. My 4th gen's got a 3-inch lift and slightly bigger tires. My 1st gen's just got bigger tires. And I'm not scared to take that almost anywhere and explore these places. And I mean, literally, my 1st gen 4Runner is probably like a $3,000 truck. Almost anybody can get into something like that and go and explore places you would never believe existed.
Yeah, no, it's important. It seems like a lot of people nowadays, and I probably why overlanding is so big, is just the value of your quality of life, but also the value of your money spent.
Exactly.
People who are hardcore to drag racing, but for me, it's a one-trick pony. You build a car. The fastest cars do the most money.
Yeah.
And you take it out so often, to be able to run it. And that may be fun for that person, but for me, like, I take that money and I put it in the truck behind me, and I've, been all over the country right now. I saw stuff that I never been able to see, experience stuff I never experienced. And to me, I get more value doing that versus if I was still doing hot rodding, doing, the road racing stuff I used to do back in the day.
Well, what we're doing, I mean, let's take both aspects of it, the overlanding or the off-roading aspect of it. I mean, you can do either of those very, very cheaply. The overlanding, you can take your car. Yeah. But I mean, let's just say you want to get more of the off-road aspect of it. I mean, an old ZR2 S10. A ZR2 S10 is a capable rig to go do some pretty decent off-roading.
Yeah.
You can get into that cheap.
And you got people there who are going to help you out.
Everybody helps.
Exactly. You can be a total newbie like Eric and I were last year, and you build the comradeship with somebody, a complete stranger, and you build trust in somebody and in yourself to do something. You learn, you adapt, you change, and you make lifelong friendships and memories doing so. And that's huge. And you get that in the drag racing or the street racing or the road course, the typical car scene. But like, are you going to trust somebody to guide you up an obstacle that you can flip your truck on?
Yeah.
You know, you don't get that in the street scene, but you get that in the off-road scene. And you just got instant trust for somebody, and you automatically have a bond with somebody, and you know that they're gonna have your back.
Like the drag racing scene, it's like, hey, what do you got under the hood? You're like, I ain't popping my hood. But like the off-road scene, you're like, look at the new shocks I got. You want to open the hood. You're like, oh, look, I got this, I got that. You want to show everybody what you got. You want to share everything you have. You know, if this guy next to you doesn't have something and you have it, everybody is willing to share whatever you have.
Right, just
extra parts even. I mean, your car breaks, you share your extra parts, you share everything.
That's huge. Like he's saying, the drag racing scene or the racing scene, it's a rivalry. To where the off-road scene is a comradeship, it's partnership.
Yeah.
You know, we've been to events where people break something and someone's got a spare part or tools and they're helping you out. Yeah. You know, you get some of that in the drag racing scene, but I mean, you got a couple $1,000s on the line on this race. Your rival's not going to help you. I'm going to help you because I'm going to feel bad for leaving you out in the middle of the woods, you know?
Yeah.
We're going to stop everything we do. I mean, and you're the same way. If we're 10 minutes into a trail, I don't care if we're 10 minutes into a trail. If we're 5 hours from home and only 10 minutes into a trail, we're going to get you out. We're going to get you help before I can continue.
Yeah.
The camaraderie and the people we meet, and then doing these podcasts. I mean, you're only 2 hours from us, but I mean, even 2 hours away is actually a complete different aspect of it. And the vehicles that you have versus the vehicles that we have in our group and what we deal with it's night and day. So it's really cool that even we can have this podcast and have people such as you and everybody else we've had interviewed and we haven't interviewed yet. It's just a really cool. It's a really cool scene. I like it.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
It's definitely, like I said, I've done it all. I've done drag racing, motorsports, show cars and stuff. Yeah. And this has been hands down the most life benefiting passion I've had. Like what I've gained from this over the that's few years I've been doing it in comparison to some of these other guys.
Yeah.
I've gained so much from it, and I've brought so many friends along with me out of these other scenes, and we've all just kind of grown together with it too. Mm-hmm. And I've really it's something that I feel like I want to pass on to kids and always keep on going.
You brought the kids, yeah. I was getting ready to say this isn't a single based event. I mean, yeah, when you're doing the harder off-road things, I try not to bring the kids, but I'm more of the overland side of the group, and he's more the off-road side of the group.
Right. I like to camp and do the overlanding stuff, but I've been camping since I was a kid, so I'm ready to really test my skills.
But I mean, this is a family event. Most of the stuff we do, it's bringing your family along with you. You know, my son's 14 years old, and I mean, how many Forest Service roads am I able to let him drive on? And he gets to grow up, as a 13, 14-year-old driving these back roads and growing up doing that, and my 3-year-old, he gets to just enjoy camping by creeks and these stops along the roads and throwing rocks into the creek. And I love it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no,
it's huge.
One of my favorite things, I'm getting kids and my family more and more involved, but I took my oldest camping and we get all set up and we get the fire going and he's just sitting there with a little stick, poking at the fire. I'm sitting there like, you good, buddy? He's like, yeah, man, I'm good. And he's in his element. It's like,
yes.
That's what I want to do. I want to get a stick and poke at the fire. And it's to share those experiences and just that feeling of, like I said, just poking a fire or
absolutely,
putting it in a creek. Like to me, just you gain so much in your soul for that. Like,
oh yes,
you grow so much more with that. So it's like I said, I've had a lot of fun doing this stuff, and I continue to grow and, like I said, make what I built better, but also wrap this other end to it and involve family, people, and adventure. Like I'm not just building something and sending it down the road. I get to involve so much with it, and the friends I've made doing it. It's been fantastic.
And the rigs you're building are just, I'm jealous.
I'll post a couple more. There's been a few others that I've been proud of. One of the ones I'm working on right now is, probably one of the better ones I've built.
Okay.
Every time we do it, it gets better and better about
Yeah.
it.
Well, sure.
You
Of
start
course.
knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, I feel like I don't know anything. Like, there's so much I still need to learn and grow on. But I get to do it with friends and involve people in my life with it. And such, like I said, it's such a beneficial thing to have. It can just bring so much more value to life.
Back to the well, I mean, I know we jumped all over the place, but from what I see on on Instagram and whatnot, and my research, so a lot of your era of Toyotas, are a lot of the parts you're seeing, are they coming from out west?
No.
Really? Okay.
A lot of our stuff's Midwest. Like, out west, there's a ton of shops out there that I definitely recommend. There's one in Ohio that's doing a fantastic job called Land Cruiser Shop. His stuff blows me away.
Okay.
But for us, we kind of stick to the Midwest and network with like that. Like I said before, people approach us about building trucks, and it's like, well, what are you looking for? Okay, well, this is the guy you need to. Like, if you want what we're building, we're the right people for you. If you want an off-road rig, not me, but I know the dude that can take care of you on that.
Yeah.
Right, I hear it. So I think we should start wrapping up.
Yeah, we've been on this for I think almost an hour and 40 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I'm surprised that my phone hasn't died yet.
Oh, I hear it. But again, James, where can we find you on social media?
Main place you can find me is Built by Budski, all one word. Like I said, I try to share all my adventures and what I'm building, and you'll see a mix of, like I said, some of the commercial fishing stuff we do, and some cats, and just a couple other random things with it. And like I said, if anybody ever comes out to Shawnee, feel free to reach out to me, especially if you're bringing your family or your rig and kind of have some questions, of where to go. I'd be glad to point you. Like I said, I work to try to educate people and show them the experience out here without trying to ruin what we have. And along with, if you ever have any issues, you can reach out to me. We have a full shop that's pretty well equipped. Granted, it's mostly Land Cruiser stuff, but we have a lot of the tooling and stuff that you may need.
We've always got issues, so.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it was good talking with you. I'll be in touch with you here in the future about future plans.
Yeah, like I said, we'll try to see. I'll share the winter trail ride, and like I said, maybe we can try to get time to get everybody together, and I'll show you what Shawnee has to offer.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like our events in early December, and then we're closing our Christmas real quick. But I mean, I'm getting to camp in the snow, in the cold, at all. So I mean, January, February is still open for me.
All right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, mine. So, sounds good, guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope to meet up with you sooner than later.
Yep. Yeah. If anything, I'll definitely be out at More Expo.
We'll be there.
And I know I'm trying to make a couple events as I can. Winter kind of gets a little bit busy, but I'll make time for some.
Right. But we'll be at More Expo definitely. We're trying to land a booth and well, we're trying to land a booth. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. We'll see when we get closer.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
All right.
It was good talking to you,